You ever hear something that makes the hair on your arms stand up? Not because of what it said, but because it shouldn't exist in the first place. That's how this all started. A voice. On a frequency that wasn't supposed to be there. I work as a radio repairman, or at least I used to. It's not exactly a booming business these days, with everything gone digital. But out here in Cold Bend, an old mining town clinging to the edges of the forest, there are still a few stations running analog equipment. I fix them, keep them alive, like a coroner patching up corpses just to make them twitch again. My workshop sits right behind my house. Small, cluttered, filled with hums and flickering bulbs. Late one evening, I was calibrating an old shortwave receiver for a local ham operator, tuning through static, white noise, the occasional music bleed from faraway stations, when I landed on it. A faint voice, weak, buried under layers of distortion. It was a woman's voice whispering something like, "Help me. The tower. They won't let me leave." At first, I figured it was cross-interference, some pirate station or emergency band. But the coordinates didn't line up. The signal was coming from a blank frequency, one that shouldn't even be active. I marked the bandwidth, tried again, static, then, faintly. "Please, if anyone can hear this, I'm at Hollow Ridge. The light is out." I froze. Hollow Ridge. That's about 12 miles from town. But here's the thing. There's nothing out there anymore. The old mine collapsed years ago. The whole area was condemned after the fire in '93. Still, I did what any idiot driven by curiosity would do. I wrote down the timestamp, the coordinates, and I started logging the signal strength every hour. That night, the voice came back. Same frequency, same woman. Only this time, she said my name. "Mark, please help me, they're coming." I didn't remember giving my name over any band, and yet, she sounded certain, desperate. I turned the gain down, leaned close to the receiver, my breath fogging the cold metal casing. "Who are you?" I asked. "How do you know my name?" For a few seconds, nothing. Then a sudden burst of static so loud it nearly blew the speaker, followed by a single tone, a kind of low hum that wavered like someone breathing into the mic. Then, silence. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went to the sheriff's office to ask about Hollow Ridge. The deputy gave me a weird look when I mentioned the place. Said the ridge had been fenced off years ago after the old broadcast tower burned down in the fire. But here's the thing. The fire was in 1993, and the woman's voice I heard on that frequency was on a station that went dead in 1993. I told myself it was just residual interference, leftover code from a dead transmitter bouncing between the hills. But the voice stayed with me. The way she said my name, it wasn't distorted anymore in my head. It was clear, soft, human. By the next night, I couldn't resist. I turned the receiver back on. Static greeted me first, like the sound of endless wind trapped inside a wire. Then, faintly, underneath, a pulse. Not a heartbeat exactly, but rhythmic, intentional. And then, her voice again. "You came back." I froze. "Who are you?" "They don't know you're listening," she whispered. "Please, don't let them hear." The line hissed, and I swear I heard something else moving beneath her words, like footsteps crunching on gravel echoing through an open space. I hit record. "Where are you broadcasting from?" "The tower. It's still burning. It never stopped." That line hit me like a punch. The tower fire, 1993, was one of the worst in our county's history. They said the night guard was trapped inside when the generator exploded. He'd used the emergency frequency to call for help, but no one reached him in time. They found what was left of him 3 days later, sitting beside the console, microphone in hand. Now, 30 years later, I was picking up a woman's voice on that same frequency. The static deepened, turning harsh and distorted. And for a moment, the lights in my workshop dimmed. Just once. But I saw it. Then came another sound, a low knocking. Not from the speaker, from my window. I turned my head slowly. just the dark outline of my backyard beyond the glass, the forest, motionless. Then, another knock. 3 slow, measured taps. When I went to check, no one was there, just the faint hum of my antenna in the cold wind. But when I came back to the desk, the radio light was flickering and the recording reel was still spinning. And in the playback, I could hear another voice, a man's, rough, ragged. "You shouldn't be listening, Mark." My heart stopped. I replayed it 3 times, trying to convince myself it was feedback, some audio artifact. But the voice said it differently each time, like it was speaking live. I shut everything off and sat in silence. The room felt too small, like the walls were leaning in. That night I dreamed of the old broadcast tower, the one that burned. It was standing tall again, glowing faint red through the fog. And at the top window, behind the shattered glass, was a figure holding a microphone, looking straight down at me. When I woke up, the receiver was already on, and the voice, the woman's voice, was waiting. "If you want to find me," she whispered, "follow the signal." I left just after dawn, when the fog still clung low to the treetops. The road to Hollow Ridge hadn't been used in decades. Grass and roots split the asphalt like veins. I threw the receiver, a handheld frequency scanner, and a coil of spare wire into the truck bed. Halfway there, the signal began to pulse again, faint, steady, the same bandwidth. Every few miles, the static would clear, and that woman's voice would whisper a single word: "Closer." The closer I got, the more the air itself seemed charged. My radio wasn't just picking up sound, it was vibrating. The steering wheel buzzed under my palms, even my fillings tingled. At the base of Hollow Ridge, the old access road wound upward through pines so tall they blocked out the sun. I parked by the collapsed fence and went the rest on foot. Every few steps, my scanner ticked, a slow metronome guiding me up. Then I saw it. The broadcast tower, or what was left of it. The metal frame leaned to one side, blackened with soot but still standing. At the top, the skeletal dish caught the gray light and threw it back in fragments. And behind it, the charred outline of the control shack, half buried in moss. The hum in my receiver rose until it was almost a scream. I killed the power, but the sound didn't stop. It was in the air now, like the forest itself was humming. Inside the shack, the air smelled of wet ash and old metal. The consoles were melted, knobs fused into the panels. But one light, impossibly, was still on. A single red bulb, glowing behind a cracked plastic cover. When I touched the console, a spark jumped to my skin, and then the speakers crackled alive. "Mark." Her voice again, clear this time, not buried in static. "You shouldn't have come." I stepped back. "Who are you?" I demanded. "How do you know me?" The hum deepened. The bulb flickered once, twice, and the voice changed, lower, rasping. "She's still here," it said, "but not like you think." The air turned icy. I could see my breath curling in the red light. Something shifted in the corner, a dark silhouette beside the wall of burnt equipment. I turned my flashlight toward it and froze. It wasn't a person. It was a shape made of smoke, humming in rhythm with the signal, its edges flickering like bad reception. "Help me," the woman's voice whispered through the static. "Please help me before he—" The sentence cut off with a burst of white noise so sharp it stabbed through my ears. The bulb shattered. Everything went black. I don't remember leaving the shack. I only know I stumbled out into the woods, running blind, the radio still screaming in my hand. When I finally reached the truck, the signal died. Silence again. But when I turned the key, the dashboard lit up with a faint red pulse, and through the truck speakers, the voice returned. "You brought it with you." I drove the whole way back without the radio on. I didn't even breathe near it. But that didn't matter. The hum was still there, not loud, just under everything. The tires, the wind, even my heartbeat. A rhythm that wasn't mine. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked normal, quiet, familiar, but I didn't go inside right away. I sat there for a long time staring at the porch light. It was flickering, every 5 seconds, perfectly timed. Inside, my workshop was exactly how I'd left it. Except the receiver was on. I had pulled its plug out before I left. I know I did. But now it was running. The dials moved on their own, searching through static until the same low frequency came through. "Mark, he's awake." The voice was weaker now, fragmented between bursts of interference. I reached for the power switch. The entire bench jolted. The fluorescent bulb above me exploded with a pop, showering glass. For a second, everything went black. Then my backup generator kicked in. That's when I noticed the recorder still running on the table. The reel was spinning backward. I leaned closer, listening. The voice that came through wasn't the woman this time. It was a man, deep, distorted, almost mechanical. "You opened the line again. The air belongs to us now." Then came that same rhythmic pulse, slow and deliberate, like breathing through metal. I killed the generator. I couldn't take it anymore. But the sound kept going, even in the dark. That's when I realized it wasn't coming from the equipment. It was coming from the walls. The house was humming. I pressed my ear against the drywall and heard faint whispers under the plaster, like a dozen voices tangled together. Some sounded human, others didn't. One of them, the woman, said clear as day, "It spreads through sound." The air felt electric, heavy with pressure. Every device in the room began to hiss. The scanner, the recorder, even the old clock radio I hadn't used in years. They all came alive, muttering fragments of sentences I couldn't understand. Then, in the middle of it all, came a knock at the front door. 3 slow taps. I froze. The voices stopped. Only the hum remained, low and steady. When I opened the door, there was no one outside, just the empty street. But my radio, sitting on the porch railing where I'd left it days ago, clicked on by itself. And through its tiny speaker came the woman's voice again, calm now, almost peaceful. "You can't shut it off, Mark. You brought the signal home." I don't remember going back inside. The rest of that night is a blur of shadows and sound. When I woke up the next morning, my phone wouldn't turn on, my TV flickered with static, and even the power lines outside buzzed faintly, in perfect rhythm with that same impossible pulse. I stepped out into the yard and realized the sound wasn't just in my house anymore. It was everywhere, coming from every direction. The air, the trees, the birds overhead, all of them carrying that same faint, ghostly hum. And for the first time since it began, I realized the signal wasn't reaching out to me. It was spreading through me. It's been 3 days since the signal spread. I stopped counting hours because the clocks won't keep time anymore. Every time I look at them, the hands twitch back and forth like they're stuck between seconds. The world outside looks the same, but it feels wrong. The sky has a faint hum to it now. You can't hear it unless you stand still long enough. It vibrates in your bones like the planet itself is breathing. I haven't slept since the voices started whispering my name through the static. They don't need radios anymore, they just find you. I tried burning the receiver, smashing it, even burying it under concrete. Didn't matter. The hum came back stronger every time, like it was angry. And last night, the transmission changed. For the first time, it wasn't words. It was a location. Coordinates, repeated over and over in that broken female voice. They led back to the old tower, the one where this all began. So here I am, back at the edge of town, flashlight in hand, camera rolling, because someone has to see what's really happening. The tower looks different now. The air around it bends like heat, and every metal surface vibrates in rhythm with the signal, pulsing faint blue light. The closer I get, the stronger it feels, not like sound, but pressure, pushing through my chest. At the base of the tower, I find something new. A door that wasn't there before. Rusted, half open, leading down into the ground. The signal is loudest here. It's not just sound anymore, it's alive. The stairs spiral downward forever. Each step hums like a tuning fork. My flashlight flickers, and for a second I see shadows moving inside the walls. Shapes that shouldn't exist, twisting in sync with the rhythm. At the bottom, there's a single room, circular, lined with broken equipment and hundreds of dead radios stacked on the floor. And in the center, a figure. It's not human, not really. More like a body made of signal. Faint static outlining a form that shifts and trembles. The voice returns, but this time it's not from a speaker. It's in the air. "We were the first broadcast," it says, "sent to be heard, forgotten, lost in your noise." The walls shimmer with faces, fleeting, flickering human outlines trapped in the static. I recognize one of them. It's me. "You tuned the line," it says. "You opened the echo." I can barely breathe. The whole chamber vibrates, pulling me forward like gravity. My equipment melts, screens stretch into light, and the hum becomes unbearable. Not sound anymore, but thought. "Every frequency is a doorway," it says. "And you've kept it open long enough." The figure steps closer. I can feel its shape inside my mind, rewriting everything I remember as static. I try to scream, but my voice comes out distorted, layered with whispers that aren't mine. Then I understand. The signal was never meant to be heard. It was meant to replace. My vision dissolves into snow. The camera drops, and the last thing I see before everything turns to white noise is the tower's red light blinking in perfect rhythm with my heartbeat. Cut to black. The hum continues faintly, even after silence. Transmission complete.